Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, first of all, after before I explain about the material, I would like to introduce myself first. Okay, my name is Fauzan, and I'm come from Economic University, Economic Education, Economic Faculty, Padang State University. Okay, in this time, I will present to you about monetary economy. This is the assignment of the week 3. Okay, the title of this presentation is Economic Monetary Concept. Okay, let's start to the first explanation. The first material is Calculating Money Demand according to Ricardo, Irving Fisher, and Marshall. And the first of the list of Ricardo, as the expert of the economy, he said that quantity theory is a simple quantity theory. David Ricardo said that the value depends on the amount of money circulating in the society. And this means that the more money in circulation, the higher the price of the goods, and vice versa. The money supply is formulated M equals K x P. Note M equals money with symbolized P equals price level of goods, K constant, and M is money. And then let's next to the Irving Fisher. Irving Fisher told that in every transaction there's always a sellers and buyers. And the money that had to be paid has to be the same with money that has to be received. And then the value of the goods sold equals the transaction volume, symbolize it with T, times the average price of the goods. On the other hand, the value of the transacted goods must be the same as the volume of money in the community, multiplied by the average number of times the money has been exchanged from the one to another, or the average velocity of money during that period. MVT equals PT is an identity and itself is not a monetary theory. This identity can be developed as by Fisher into monetary theory as follows. MD equals 1 slash PT pay T. The demand or need for money from the public is certain proportion of 1 PT of the transaction value. Equation 2, along with an equation showing the equilibrium position in the monetary sector. Okay, the next is from Cambridge Surrey or Marshall Figo. He has an argument about this theory. He thought he said that this theory, like Fisher's theory and other classical theories, is rooted in the function of money as a common means of exchange, means of 25 exchange. Therefore, classical theories see the need for money or the demand for money from the public as the need for a liquid medium of exchange for the purpose of transactions. This means that the main difference between the theory and Fisher, this theory and Fisher lies in the emphasis in the Cambridge money demand theory and the behavior of individuals in allocating their wealth between various possible forms of wealth, one of which is the form of money. This behavior is influenced by the consideration of the gain and loss of the holders of wealth in the form of money. Cambridge theory emphasized behavioral factors, cost-benefit consideration, that link the demand for a person's money with the volume of transaction he plans. The Cambridge theory states that the demand for money is influenced by not only by the volume of transactions and institutional factors. It is also influenced by the interest rate, the size of the people's wealth, and the predictions or expectations of the community about the future. So in the short run, the Cambridge theorists assume that the amount of wealth, volume of transactions, and national income have constant proportional relationship with each other. And then the next explanation will be how to calculation of money demand for transactions, precautions, and speculation. We move to the transaction motive of and precautions. We know that people hold money in order to fulfill and carry out their transactions, and the demand for money from the public for this purpose is greatly influenced by the level of national income and the interest rate. The higher the income level, the greater the transaction volume and the greater the need for money for transaction purposes. And it can be means that the demand for money for the purpose of this transaction is not always a constant proportion, but it's also influenced by the high and low interest rates. It's just that the interest rate factor for the transaction demand for money was not emphasized by Keynes, but the interest rate was emphasized on the demand for money for speculative purposes. Okay, the next is about speculation motive. Speculation motive said that, as the name implies, the motive for holding this money is primarily for the purpose of obtaining the benefits that can be obtained from if the holder of the money predicts what will happen currently. In the Cambridge theory, the uncertainty factor of the future, uncertainty, and the factor of expectations of the owner of wealth can influence the demand for money from the owner of the wealth. But unfortunately, this theory never standardized these, these factors into their monetary theory formulation. And these factors are only included in the qualitative analysis. Keynes' formulation of the money demand for the speculative motive is a formalization of these factors into monetary theory. Okay, let's move to the other explanations. We move to understanding modern Keynesian theory with an inventory approach and portfolio balance. The first is theory of Keynes. We all know that theory of Keynes is the further development of Keynes' theory was based on transaction motives by the W. J. Baumol, 1952, and speculative motives, James Tobin. And then we move to the Baumol inventory or supply approach. Demand for money is like the demand for supply or stock, which is used at any time to meet various needs that arise at any time, but to manage it requires costs. It requires an optimum amount of inventory or minimum cost. Let's move to portfolio balance approach by Tobin. Tobin portfolio approach explained the speculative motive for money and demand. This approach corrects Keynes' simplistic and unrealistic assumptions. And we can see that Keynes' assumptions is versus the monetary sector consists of only two assets, money and bonds. And the second is the LP theory is formed based on the individual expectation of each investor. While investors only have two options, holding the whole money or bonds only. There is no alternative to holding them together as a combination. The portfolio approach provides an opportunity for investors to hold portfolios of a wide variety of wealth or asset combinations. Okay, the last is request for money for transaction. Benefits will be obtained by there are also fees for holding money consist of transaction costs for exchanging bonds of money, and then opportunity cost of holding money in the form of interest rates on bonds. Determination of optimum cash or supply, which result in optimum costs, are described as follows. The total cost for holding cash consists of intermediary costs and interest costs with the formula TC minus B bracket T slash C plus R point in bracket C slash 2. That is the formula how to find the value. Okay, that's all the explanation about three three of the matters. I hope that's all make us understand about the material. That's all the explanation for me. Is there any mistake that I've made in ordering this presentation? I would like to say please give me apologize for this mistake. Okay, that's all my presentation for today, and have a good time. And the last is wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.